Okay, so I'm Macy Grizzle and I'm here with Devin Salter, and this is our Flat Earth Conspiracy Theory PowerPoint. To start off, this is our table of contents. This is what we'll be reviewing during this. We'll start off with going over the background, which will basically include the popularly believed version, evidence, and historical info regarding Flat Earth and the conspiracy surrounding it. Secondly, we will start with talking all about the conspiracy, the origin, the facts used as proof, and originally drew people to question whether the Earth was really round. Moving on to the flaws of chapter 3, why this conspiracy is in fact false. For miscellaneous information relating to magnitude, those affected, errors regarding. First up is section for the version, evidence, and historical info surrounding the Flat Earth conspiracy. So most people who believe that the Earth is flat believe that the Earth is a flat discus shape. It's believed by most flat earthers that Antarctica, in fact, acts as an ice wall surrounding the edges of the flat Earth, which keeps us from, falling off. The Arctic Circle is sitting in the middle. So a large portion of the community believing that space does not exist and that the world is just sitting in place. Furthering the beliefs that people believe. So the sun and the moon. They believe that the sun and the moon act as almost like spotlights that shine over different portions at different times, with some even believing that there could be an invisible anti-moon that covers the moon and causes of lunar eclipse. Gravity. Not all, but some flat earthers don't believe in gravity. They think that the Earth is accelerating upwards and that gravity simply does not exist. So flat earthers just think that NASA in the government is lying to everyone, and that the round earth theory is in fact the conspiracy. In recent days, it has kind of gained popularity because of modern media and websites such as YouTube. The last time there was a big increase was a few years ago, around 2015, 2016. It was sparked even more after the rapper Bob endorsed the idea of the Earth being flat. So let's look at the past and the present surrounding flat Earth. In newer times, of course, there's been revivals of the idea of flat Earth throughout history. For example, in 1956, Samuel Shenton believed that revived the International Flat Earth Society, and which was continued by Charles K. Johnson in 1972 after Shenton's death. The primary goals was education to teach people, specifically young children who had yet to be taught that the Earth was round or understand that the Earth was round, to believe them that the Earth was in fact a flat surface, because that would be the easiest way probably to increase their cause, would be get into the minds and corrupt young people. So Johnson grew the group and spread the message even further, even to his wife, who grew up in Australia, believed it, because she said if it wasn't flat, then they would have been hanging upside down by her toes. Fun ones they are. So history. The historical information of flat Earth as a whole has dated back to centuries ago, specifically around the 6th century BC, when it really started to be found out that the Earth was round and not flat. Aristotle. So Aristotle in the 4th century BC discovered the findings when this idea became more popularized and normalized. He discovered and spoke through his observations, such as ships on the horizon disappearing and variations in the sun and stars' elevation with latitude, which started to prove for most people that the Earth was in fact round, but not all, just most. Moving on to section 2, which Devin will be presenting about the conspiracy.
In this section, we're going to go over the origin, along with facts used as proof by flat earthers and the flaws that drew it into question. Flaws of the round world. The original story is questioned because it's wrong. In their minds, it has been proven through many means, included through NASA, which is a leader in science and physics, through undeniable evidence such as literal pictures of Earth, but they still discredit the information because mostly of a distrust in government and the agencies. They're often vague in their details to back up their information and don't really have a good base of where they get anything. Flaws that drew it into question were things like being able to see extremely far distances, like from high points of elevation, like mountains, or just across the horizon. They think that if you can see so far without seeing a curve, like with the naked eye, then it's clearly flat, which is false. As stated in the previous section, it was normal thought like a long time ago for flat Earth to be the norm. However, it has had resurgences in present day. However, we now know that the round Earth is true. Some questions and plausible flaws in the flat Earth theory are that believers specifically rely on sensory observations, meaning only really believing what they see or interact with to be their own real truth. A common theme with these individuals is that they actually haven't had any firsthand experience in physics. There is a lack of education a lot of the time, so they don't exactly know what's going on. Some of the origins, before the findings that the earth was round, presented by Pythagoras or Aristotle, some different cultures believed that the earth was flat to begin with. Um, Places like China, India, and Greece, some thinking it was disc, others thinking that it was a square with four corners. Along with thoughts on the earth, some thought that the heavens were spherical and flat earth was just surrounded by water. People in Papua New Guinea thought that it ended at the horizon wherever your eyes could see, I guess. And the Norse people had their own version where the water surrounding the earth was inhabited by a sea serpent. Some of the facts that these flat earthers use as proof or evidence to state their case is, as said before, pictures seeing very far away. One of them specifically being this picture of Chicago, the Chicago skyline, taken from across Lake Michigan, which shouldn't exactly be visible, but it is because of a mirage, which is basically an optical illusion. The reason that they are visible is because the air on the water's surface level is colder than the air above it. This causes the light rays to refract toward the colder air, which in turn creates the image of a reflective skyline seen above the horizon, almost look like it's hovering above it. And our eyes and brain assume that the light rays take a straight path from the object to our eyes, when in fact they do not, which creates the optical illusion.
Okay, I will be going over section 3, which is the flaws in the flat earth theory, basically proving the conspiracy false and showing that the earth is in fact round. So basically going over the effect and force that is found on earth proves that the earth is a spinning globe, because this force acts perpendicular to the forces of motion of the spinning mass, accounting for things like the direction of cyclones and hurricanes spinning the northern versus the southern hemisphere. And then Foucault's pendulum, the planet's free swinging pendulum changes over the course of the day, which is more evidence to prove that the earth is in fact rotating, which would not be possible if it were flat. The stars, if the earth was flat, then the stars' movement couldn't be explained. Different stars and constellations rising in the east throughout the sky in the northern hemisphere, but if the earth was flat, the stars would actually be circling at a constant height instead of being in various states of motion. Some other flaws to note, as mentioned previously in the presentation, Aristotle and his findings, like the boats disappearing over the horizon. Also, mirages and optical illusions can explain most of the things that flat earthers use as evidence. Finally, there's photo evidence from NASA of places showing around Earth. However, flat earthers will argue that these pictures are fake or edited, mostly because of distrust in government or the other higher ups, similar to those who believe that the moon landing is fake. Devin will be going over section 4, which is the miscellaneous things such as the magnitude of those affected and the heroes revolving the flat earth theory.
Starting with those affected by the theory or the conspiracy, it's less of an issue of who was affected because nobody has been mainly, but who is going to be or will be affected in the future. They're not causing any physical harm, any damage per se, but an argument can be made that the growth of the lie needs to be stopped because if further progression spreads, then it will influence the mind of young, like the youth and children, because they are targets, as seen with the International Flat Earth Society having a goal to target the youth, basically, to get their ideas implanted in the education system before the education system can implant the ideas of a spherical Earth into their heads. Additionally, it has affected physicists, NASA, and other government agencies, and the workers of these places by totally discrediting and invalidating their work, based mainly because of the flat earthers' skepticism and distrust in the government.
And I would like to add a point that that was very good, Devin. Also, if you get into the minds of young people, eventually it'll slow down our science and space travel. If people are believing the Earth is flat, those things will progressively be stopped as further generations will simply be content to live on just a flat Earth.
Moving on to magnitude, this conspiracy has never caused anything catastrophic. It is growing in size and popularity, mainly because of things like YouTube and other social media platforms, per se. The likelihood of a terrible event taking place can't really be calculated because it's just not possible, because it's completely false. There's so much evidence to prove that the Earth is not flat that you can't really take into consideration things that can't happen and just calculate the chances. If it were true, some things that maybe could happen, there being earthquakes, the Earth's tectonic plates, shifting, causing a break in the Earth, breaking it into two sections. If this were to happen, there would definitely be death. People would fall into oblivion because if they don't believe in space, then where would they go? Where would they fall? Which further proves the point of the falseness, because how would they explain the earthquakes and the sinkholes in the depths of the ocean if the Earth is flat and the depths wouldn't be that deep? Some heroes that keep the story alive, or did before their death. The rapper Bob said, "No matter how high in elevation you are, the horizon is always eye level. Sorry, cadets, I didn't want to believe it either," speaking to his belief of a flat Earth. D Marble, he's a YouTuber and conspiracy theorist. He brought a spirit level board, basically measuring the level to keep things balanced, aboard a plane and recorded himself for about 20 odd minutes and did calculations to say that he went over about 5 degree of curvature over the Earth on the plane, but there was no shift in the level, that's not how the curvature of the Earth can be tested based on a spirit level tool. Samuel Shenton was the founder and leader of the International Flat Earth Society, and his legacy was carried on through Charles Kenneth Johnson. He said, "You can't orbit a flat Earth, and the space shuttle is a joke and a very ludicrous one." And both Shenton and Johnson used biblical authority. They were Christians, to my knowledge, and as I said, he was the next leader of the International Flat Earth Society, also being known to say that if Earth were a ball spinning in space, there would be no up or down. Their influence, people like the rapper Bob, they're a celebrity and they have high influence over their fans and the general public, spreading their opinions and personal thoughts on the matter interests their fans and others, getting them involved and thus swaying their position on the topic. D Marble, like anyone else on YouTube, also has a high influence. It's one of the biggest platforms right now, and it gives him an open audience and makes it very accessible to the general public to just spread whatever message he likes, especially for the minds of the youth who are really impressionable. But YouTube has made efforts to stop these videos from being recommended to people as much as to stop the spread. And Shinton and Johnson, however, both now are dead, kept it alive in creating the organization and running it. And I do know that Johnson grew their membership in the society quite a bit compared to Shinton. And so they created an organization where like-minded people could come together to expand their views and discuss them and bring that to a larger audience.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. Here you will find the references we used to create this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.